Before we get into talking about how everyone did an FNCS today, who's already qualified, what teams like Clicks and Whale or Veno and Queasy need to place to make it to Grands, let's first start off talking about Veno potentially getting banned today. It was the craziest thing. I woke up this morning, he's getting tagged in it by Veno, showing that he was unable to log into his account, and it looked like he had been banned. He was asking anyone to help him try and sort it out. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to help him. I don't think anyone was. He was on the timeline freaking out, trying to figure out why he'd gotten banned. We even had PC tweakers like Deddy coming out and saying potentially he had his gear tweaked and it was something that Epic then picked up as hacks and accidentally banned him for them, but turns out it was nothing. We got no other word from it. A few hours later, Veno was just saying, hey guys, I've been unbanned, queue up for scrims, I want to practice. So for a while there, for a few hours, we potentially had one of, if not the best players in the world, just banned for seemingly no reason. I don't understand how this keeps happening. We've had so many pros wrongfully banned. We've had Mr. Savage, I think, wrongfully banned twice. I think Noah Riley's been banned like 2 or 3 times now. I don't get how there's just like an oopsie accidental ban button next to pro players' names. Meanwhile, we have cheaters making it through entire tournaments without getting banned, because I did want to kind of take this moment to give a bit of an update on the NA Duo Cash Cup finals I talked about in this video, where we talked about how there was 3, I think, teams of hackers who played the entire 6 games of the tournaments without getting banned, and we've heard nothing. Epic has said nothing. They haven't rescheduled this tournament. They haven't even said that they acknowledge there was cheaters in the game. There is a chance they just keep the cheaters on there and pay it out as normal, or I guess maybe they just take the cheaters off and pay everyone else out. But when, you know, Clicks and Whale died to the cheaters 3 games out of 6, their tournament was very different to, for example, Yomzo and Rise, who never died to them. So I don't really know what's going on there. I don't know how people are getting accidentally banned while actual cheaters aren't getting banned, but I thought I'd let you know. Veno's not banned. We don't know why he was though. Next up, let's talk about how FNCS went, because now we have our second week of FNCS concluded, and based on these placements, we now have some teams who are already guaranteed into the grand finals, and there's some big names like Clicks and Epic Whale or Queasy and Veno who really need a big week 3. So the tournament was an incredibly good tournament. It was really fun to watch on both regions. On EU, we had Malabuka and Thomas HD taking it out in first on 258 points, playing 6 matches and winning 2 of them. I mean, if you watched any of the gameplay, I mean, you probably saw it coming. As soon as you get a super hard-hitting gun like the new Mammoth pistol in the game, you know Thomas HD, the king of sniping, is going to dominate, and that's exactly what they did. They looked absolutely incredible. One of the biggest issues of Racetrack was its surge spots. It's a decent surge spot where you can kind of trade some tags with Mega City and you can kind of make some moves around mid-map, but it's not a fantastic surge spot. And now having this pistol in the game, it doesn't need to be. Thomas HD is going to find the surge for this team every single game. Their chances of winning Grands just went up a few notches because of this weapon alone. Then we had Kombek and Pachava in second on 227. Kami and Seti take a lot of the thunder of the Polish teams. They are phenomenal, but Kombek and Pachava have been playing really, really consistent Fortnite in the last couple of seasons. I really think they are one of the dark horses on EU, and a lot of people should be paying more attention to them. In spot number 3, we have Snazy and Podesai, who going into the last game were looking like the clear favorites to take it. Unfortunately, went down with a 0 elim 34th in their last game. Otherwise, I think they would have taken week 2 of FNCS. It's awesome seeing a French team back on top. The French teams have been really, really quiet for the last, I want to say honestly, a couple chapters, pretty much since chapter 2. Chapter 3 and 4 haven't been particularly good for the French team, so I love seeing Snazy and Podesai back up there. We had Gotaga doing a watch party of this on his Twitch channel to like 30 or 40,000 viewers. If you guys don't know, Gentle Mates, the new French org, is owned partly by Gotaga, one of the, if not the biggest content creators in France. So it was awesome seeing him introduce a huge part of his audience to competitive Fortnite who otherwise normally wouldn't watch it. Then we had Seti and Kami in 4th. They are just so ridiculously consistent right now. They are absolutely dominating. This meta is 100% for them. Then we had Nebs and Hellfire in 5th, Fastroki and Kylie, Revscard and Tripburn, Steno and Lucy, Vico and Pink, and then Vask and Older. Moving on over to NA, huge surprise here. Nobody would have seen it coming. We have Yomzo and Rise yet again winning another tournament. That is 4 set lobby tournaments in a row that Yomzo and Rise have now won. They're in first place on 315 points, playing 6 matches and winning 1 of them. And they were also contested 6 games out of 6 by the console team TB Sync and Meath, who didn't get a single point on the board. They went down on spawn 6 games out of 6 without even getting an elimination on round one of them. It was ridiculous performance from Yomzo and Rise. A lot of people probably wondering, why are you trying to contest Yomzo and Rise? TB Sync and Meath pretty much said they don't think they're gonna make grand finals anyway. They're both on console. They're already at a massive disadvantage. What they're practicing for is their spawn fights when they're then gonna play in the console Champions Cup and PlayStation Cups and other console cups like that. So honestly, you're not gonna get better spawn practice than going up against the kings of the castle. So I do honestly respect that play, and they weren't playing to grief them. They didn't drop at the gas station and try to run away with half the loot. They just 50-50 dropped the castle every time and they lost. And honestly, I respect them for the play. Yomzo and Rise used that extra surge, used those elim points, and it got them the win. Poyo and Sphinx in second on 301 points. If you guys don't know, Poyo and Sphinx's third place last FNCS. A lot of people wrote it off as a fluke, themselves writing it off as a fluke. Poyo wanted to split with Sphinx after that performance and give up their global championship spot, which a lot of people questioned, and Sphinx wouldn't sign the papers. He would not disband the team. They were forced to keep playing together. A lot of people thought, the vibes would be off. This is going to be disaster for this team, but whatever they've done, they've fixed it. Poyo and Sphinx are still playing really, really good Fortnite right now. In third place, we had Barca and Paz. In my opinion, the most underrated team on NA right now. Last week, they were contested by Marzo W, which really messed up their early game and really didn't give them a chance to shine. But now they're uncontested. They're back. They're absolutely popping off. 283 points for the West duo. They got the most wins on the day with 2 wins in their 6 matches. Then we had Aegis and Kanata, who going into the last game were looking like they could take it home, but a 1 elim 20th unfortunately did bring it down for them, but still a 4th place is huge for them. Then we had Defiable and Scissor. I never know how to say this guy's name, I'm sorry. Muzz and Paper, who really, really needed those series points. I'll talk again a little bit about what they need to clutch up the qualification for Grands after not making it out of round 1 in week 1. Then we had Bucky and Okas. That's a 5th and now a 7th from Bucky and Okas, and they are alphaing up the island every single game like they said. I think today Bucky got it, I think 4 out of 6 games or 3 out of 6 games again, so really is sticking to his claim that he is going to be on the island every single game unless he goes down before it spawns. Then we had Acorn and Cold in 8th. No surprise, incredibly consistent duo right now, picking up a win today. Then we had Aviv and Skittles and Thoric and Bolts. Now, let's talk about where we're at with some of the big teams, because a lot of you guys are very confused. I've explained the format a few times. The top 50 most consistent duos after the 3 weeks of FNCS qualifiers go straight through to grand finals. There's no surge week, there's no reboot rounds, there's none of that. But how do you know who is in the top 50? You've got KinchAnalytics.com/FNCS. I'll link it down below. If you don't know, KinchAnalytics is an absolute mathematical mastermind. He does some crazy stuff for the Fortnite scene, and he gets nowhere near enough credit for what he does. I highly, highly recommend checking out his website, and he has the series points leaderboard, so you can go to each region and check where the teams are at based on how they've placed in both the previous 2 weeks. Now, to get top 50 is looking like it's going to be roughly 820 points. That's a rough margin, but you need to look at teams around that point. So any team that's currently above 820 points is pretty much set, even if they don't do anything next week. Even if they don't ready up into week 3, they are potentially already through. Whereas you've got huge teams that don't have anywhere near that many points, and we need to figure out how many points they need to get in week 3 and what they need to place to go through the grand final. So for that, let's kick off with NA. And again, huge shout out to NA Comp Report for bringing up this table. So this is the amount of series points they are currently on and how many points they need to then make it into the finals. So with 820 points as the margin, when you see teams like Clix and Epic Whale who are on 765, they need to get roughly a top 200, which means all they have to do is make it out of round 1 into round 2 to then get into the grand final. Obviously, you want a few buffer points. Getting round 3 would just give them even more points, but you get points allocated to you depending on how well you place in FNCS. You don't only get points for the finals, but obviously you get a lot more for making the finals. So there's some teams who don't really need that much. You've got Bully and G-Money, Knifer and Snacky, Clix and Epic Whale. They've pretty much just got to get to the second round. Whereas you have huge teams like Scoped and Magnolia, you've got Accept and Users, Favs and Chris, Death and Tahi, who need to get really, really high placements. You got to get top 27 for Scoped. TK needs to get top 50, so it's going to be a lot harder for some of these teams to get their series points up there. Now, some teams are just completely out. I already talked about that in a previous video. We have teams who are just completely out of FNCS already. Now, no one's really made a table like this for EU. If no one does the next few days, I'm hopefully going to be able to make one myself. If you go over to EU though, on Kinch's website, you can see which teams are already straight through to the finals. We got big teams like Mustache and Tayson. We got iDrop and Mappy, obviously winning winning week 1, Moneymaker and Fanayan, Pablo and Bevies, you got Cami and Seti, Vico and Pink, Malabuka and Thomas. You got a lot of big teams up there, but you've also got really big teams like Queasy and Veno who are all the way down and need a really big week 3. Queasy and Veno are projected to need to make at least finals. They need to make round 3 in the finals and then potentially place top 30 or top 20. Again, it depends on how many series points the other teams have, but it's going to be a really interesting week 3 for them. If you haven't been paying attention to FNCS, you haven't been watching it, week 3 is going to be the round to watch. With these tables made up, we can track exactly what the teams make, but if you don't have time to watch the games, don't worry, I'll make videos keeping you guys up to date.